Rick Dollar here with the Rick Dollar Show. And Kristen and Wayne, I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Rick Dollar Show. I mean, just seems weird to me. But you guys are like the husband and wife super duo of bluegrass because Wayne, you work with your wife with Benson, and then you work with um the guys at Third Time Out too. And Kristen, she's playing banjo for everybody. So you guys are extremely busy couple.
Yeah, we at times, like everything else, it kind of goes in seasons, and the
Right.
work with this project has just been what we did in the studio. It's not like we've had tour dates or anything that were related to this, but
Mhm.
the COVID-19 shutdown is what created this opportunity because nobody, as far as no bands, had work to play. Everything was kind of cut off, and we
That's true.
started to gather our thoughts and just talk about something like this because we'd never done it, and we had plenty of time. From
Hmm.
the first meeting when we drove up and talked to Mickey Gamble, the two of us, and then just started trying to go through a list of potential songs and who would sing them, and I had some instrumentals, and the next thing you know, there was enough there to make this happen.
Of course, we are talking about the new album Poison, which
Pick your poison.
I'm sorry, pick your poison. Let's just try that again. Of course, we're talking about your new album, Pick Your Poison. But in regard to that record, now you've already had three or four singles drop on that album that have had their own amount of success. Um, what are you looking at dropping off this record now?
Well, now that the record's out, March 31st is the release date for the full album. The first song on the entire project is called Icy Cold.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really good representation, I think, overall of the record. It's a bluegrassy cut
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit few contemporary elements, and that to me is pretty much what this album is. We have really straight ahead grass, barn burner, cuts, the fast in the wind type stuff that's all about the picking, and I love that. And the Red Mountain Wine would be one of those. But then we kind of have some of those more artsy, touchy feely tunes that I really love as well, like "Oh Me" of Little Faith,
Mm-hmm.
and some original instrumentals of Wayne's that. That lean. There's one that's real traditional, but one that leans away. Well, Icy Cold kind of just sits right in the middle of all that. So I think it's going to be a good track, hopefully, for us. And it's going to be the one that hopefully everybody's focusing on now that the record has been released.
Exactly. Can you give me a little backstory on that song? Is there a little funny story about how that came about?
Yeah, it's not really a funny story, but Mickey Harris, who
Mm-hmm.
plays for Rhonda Vincent, he and I were in a band together when we were 19 years old. We joined the Larry Stevenson Band and then played together after that in a group called Sally Jones and the Sidewinders. It was Sally Jones, Mickey Harris, Cody Kilby, and myself. And we did this song, Icy Cold. It was written by Mickey's aunt, who he comes from a really he's one of the few people you'll ever meet that's from the Middle Tennessee area. He grew up there. And he had an uncle that had a TV show that was broadcast, and just a really musical, entrenched family there in Middle Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And his aunt wrote this song, and I loved it always. And I've always remembered it and always wanted to do it. And we had Grayson Lane sing the lead vocal on this. And
Oh,
are you familiar with Grayson yet?
yeah, exactly.
He's fantastic, and I can't wait to see what happens with him because he can go in a million different directions stylistically. But he was gracious enough to come in and sing this and one other song on the album for us.
And that's great. I tell you what, there's so much good music on this record. Like I said, with it being dropping singles the way you guys have, um, Red Mountain Wine just seems to be one of my favorites. And Wayne, did you have anything to do with that, sir?
Well, I had actually heard the Lost and Found cut of that song, and
Oh, really?
yeah, and thought that it would work at a faster tempo. And the tune goes way back.
Mhm.
A friend of mine actually sent me a link to one of the, maybe even the original recording of it, and I listened to it at the time, but that's been months ago. But when you an album, you want it to be as well rounded as it can be, and we needed something faster
Mhm.
like this to put on the record. And those are a lot of times the hardest tunes to come by, because
Mhm.
there's only so much of that from the original or the early days of bluegrass, and most of it's been covered. So that's part of the whole process of being able to do this, is just to have an idea for something that'll work. And that one worked out great with Mickey doing the lead vocal on it, because some of the phrasing in it got a little bit sideways at that tempo, and he figured out how to make all of that work in the studio at that tempo.
And those can be some of the hardest to find, but they're the
Yeah.
easiest to cut and play because it's so fun. You just get in there and you just play. And it's just really easy, and those tracks will just fall right out of you.
Well, I'm just telling you, man, it's like, something out of Star Trek because it's just so stinking fast. I mean, I was listening to it before we started the interview, and I was like, how do you keep up with something like that? Wayne, you're a coffee guy, just like
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
And
Coffee mug.
so was
Look at
it
this. My coffee mug even has a Gibson Mastertone banjo label on it. There you go.
but you need something bigger than that if you're gonna stay that going that quick that
Yeah,
fast.
look, it's gone already.
Oh
So
man. I mean, I just was amazed how fast you guys can play, but it's an art form. It's the way you guys play and the way you play together. Um, I mean, I think it's something that people need to look at and say, wow, that's incredible. Nobody does that anymore. Nobody works together anymore the way you guys do.
well, that's
Well,
nice.
yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
This the whole thing. I mean, Kristen and I have played on the same sessions before. We did living in Nashville. We would play on the same sessions at Tom T. Hall's
Mm.
studio at times. But when we're at home, we basically don't even ever talk about music. We both have really fairly busy schedules around teaching. And
Yeah.
so that's an obligation when we're here. But when we're not busy with that, we, try to spend time with Hogan and do as much as a family and make it about that when we're at home. So this has
Okay.
been a really different experience for us after all this many years of marriage, and we've actually seen each other more since the whole COVID thing. Since March of 2020,
Yeah.
way more than all the years leading up, where we have week after week, especially from the mid 90s. I mean, all the way through the mid 2000s. Bluegrass was really cranked up already, even before the old brother thing happened. But there were
Mhm.
so many weeks where we leave on Wednesday and get home on Monday morning, wash the clothes, cut the grass, and do it all over again. So it completely changed for us in March of 2020.
And it's interesting too. I said the first month of COVID felt like a vacation. You know, we might be home for a week or two. That's what everyone was thinking. And then the second month was panic, right? Because you think, uh-oh, this is something real. This is going to change our lives. But do you remember that? How lighthearted
Yeah,
we
I do.
were?
Yeah.
Hogan was home from school. We loved that. We were just all three together. You couldn't go anywhere, and it
Mhm.
really felt kind of neat. I at least had no idea what we were looking at,
Yeah. Well,
and that it
no,
was going to be so extended.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember going to, driving to 5 different grocery stores before I found ground beef,
Wow.
so that we could make spaghetti. So, I mean, it was literally scary, in that way. And everything, it just looked like a ghost town. The streets
Mhm.
were practically empty.
It's a real different time. It's unreal.
So, and that was the vibe that we had around us when we started, thinking about trying to do some music or whatever.
You could show us the cover to that record.
Yeah.
Now we were talking about the this really cool the front of that record, if you could see, Wayne, can you tell me, is it on that
Yeah,
bottle right there?
right there. Pick
Yeah,
your poison.
pick your poison is
Right.
that's actually on the. There's a glass behind us. This is a bar in Asheville. Do you remember the name of the bar?
I don't.
But
And restaurant. I mean,
and
it's a
restaurant.
classy
It's a really
place.
neat place, and that glass that's behind us is actually like a private booth. That if
Ah,
it's not occupied by people, maybe two or three people could go in there and have more privacy while they ate dinner.
mhm.
And that just was a fluke that when we sat down in that spot that you could see pick your poison on that back window. And I said, hey, that kind of works with the record because it has this variety of stuff from Red Mountain Wine, a barn burner like that, three chords and a
Mhm.
cloud of dust, all the way to a Beatles cover, and then my favorite cut on the record is "Oh Me of Little Faith," which it has a contemporary Christian
Oh
feel
yeah.
all the way through. So the whole "Pick Your Poison" thing kind of worked, and we just went with that.
Now, what did you cut? What Beatles song did you cut? I missed that one. There's something.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do this song for a long time. I'll Follow the Sun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I love that tune. I think that's the second one on here. You know, that's another thing with people buying less physical product. If you stream it, you may not even hear these songs in order. But we used to design records conceptually, you know, in order with a sequence and all of that mattered. And now it's so much of just you grab this tune, you grab that tune. It becomes less important how the album is
Mhm.
sequenced and stacked. But it's the number two song on the record. And Jamie Johnson, who was a former Graskell,
Yeah.
very recently has become a Graskell again. At
Mhm.
the time, was not in the band, and after spending so many years in the band with Jamie, his first time around with the Graskells, I've heard him sing a bunch of different stuff, and nobody would guess it, but he's stylistically perfect for this. He's really, really good at
Mhm.
pop feeling songs. So when I wanted to do I'll Follow the Sun, Wayne liked it right away. And who's going to sing it? That's one of the biggest questions is who do we want to sing this? And it's one of my favorite parts of the process is pairing songs with the vocalist that you think would be perfect for it. And
Right.
he just did a beautiful job with that tune. But it's just like every other Beatles song. It's really catchy and it's deceivingly simple. You start playing it, and there are more chords going on than you realized, and the melody is just so good, and it worked great as a bluegrass song.
Man, it just shocks me that that I did not notice that song on the record. I mean, I
Are
don't
you
know.
a Beatles fan?
Yeah, I mean, my grandson grew up around the house, playing the White Album. We would throw Sergeant Pepper's on every once in a while because he kind of liked that, that kind of thing when he was younger. But yeah, and it was just a big surprise to me. But I mean, people are gonna love that. That's gonna be one of your
Hopefully so.
biggest ones. Oh yeah, I'm sure. But it's just amazing when I interview you guys. I got Wayne over here, you over here, Kristen, and it's just you guys are such a team.
Oh,
What's
thanks.
just tell me something. Everybody's going to want to know this. What's the secret to being a team?
I think the secret's being a team like that.
Mhm.
You know, that is what it is. Wayne has said one time, and I thought it was a succinct, or he got to the salient detail by saying that. They said, "How do you, you know, manage being gone half the time, and then you're home, and just the scheduling?" And we always point out that everybody's life is like that. It doesn't matter what you do
Mhm.
for a living. If both parents are working, you're going to be doing some juggling.
That's
And
true.
and Wayne said there's really just no division in our lives as far as we just all do everything, and you just throw in together, and what needs to get done that day gets done. And he
Mhm.
made the comment what Hogan sees as a team, because that really is how it works. And there's certainly no you know, there we've always just been content. If we were alone, we've never needed to be together all the time. every second of every day. That would never work, if you were with someone who traveled for whatever reason, whatever their job was.
Exactly.
So we're just pretty content. There's the scenarios of I'm home and he's gone, or he's home and I'm gone, or we're all three here. And now we have the scenario our son is 16 where he's gone quite a lot. And that's new to us because he's doing his
Wow.
own stuff now. But we're just blessed. We're pretty content and easy no matter what that day looks like.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think as far as individuals, for
Mm-hmm.
anybody, it's kind of on you to be happy. We
That's right.
find that internally, and like relationships, if you're depending on that other person for your happiness, that never works. It
Mm-mm.
just doesn't, you know.
That's
And
right.
and like everything else, you get out of it what you put into it. And both of us being, having this background before we were ever dated or anything. When I met Kristen, she was playing with the Larry Stevenson band, and she was so that's a full time group, and she was top of her class at Belmont in the still in college, and she was
Wow.
an intern with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Doing all three of those things. So it's if you're able to juggle all of that and keep it together, then that looks like a person that's going to be able to have a lot of different things on their plate and manage time well and be capable.
Well, I'll say something, man. Wayne, you're a gutsy guy, man. I mean, if I met Susan and she was part of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, I don't know. I probably would have thought about that a little bit more,
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
If
Did
Kristen hadn't played banjo, it wouldn't surprise me if she would have been a federal agent. They
Wow.
love that kind of thing. Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember, do you know Jeff Autry?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Autry.
Jeff and I are best buddies. We are cigar buddies. I'll put it
I
that way.
love Jeff Autry. Well, he and I were in the Larry Stevenson band together at the time, and I had a recruiter with the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And
Wow.
he was devastated. He was like, "Kristen, you can't do it. You just can't do it. Those are my three favorite things in the world. You cannot police those things."
That sounds like Jeff.
He's a
I
great guy.
I
Love
just
Jeff.
yeah, I just recently saw him down at Randy Wood's old time picking parlor down here in Bloomingdale, and that's the first thing we had to do. If I
Yeah.
found out Jeff was coming, he's just telling me, he's like, "Who's bringing a cigar?" Because
There you go.
here we are sitting on the front porch of Randy's guitar shop, in two rocking chairs. We got to sit down and smoke a cigar together. It's a ritualistic thing that we do.
Yeah.
But well, man, I'm tickled to death. This album is great. I can't wait for everybody else in the world to hear it. um we'll just push it so they, everybody that's hooked up with us will hear it. So but
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for that. And thank you for what you do. You're such a vital part of this process for all of us, and connecting the music uh, between the artists and the people who hopefully like it. So thank you so much for what you do.
Well, we appreciate that too. The show's been growing over the past couple of years, and of course, the podcast. You guys will be on the Rick Dollar Show podcast also. So we're on several platforms there, and including Spotify. So they push it out for us pretty well. But anyway, enough about me. Thank you so much for you guys doing what you do, because you're making my job easier.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Yep.
All right. You guys have a great afternoon.
You do the same, pal. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Rick Dollar here for the Rick Dollar Show.